Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel we're going to be talking about 2023's Oppenheimer. Written and directed by Christopher Nolan, this tells the tale of J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, and he was the director of the Los Alamos lab during the Manhattan Project. He was recruited by the military to lead a team of scientists to create the atomic bomb in an arms race with Germany. But even after Germany ends up losing the war, they still continue on, and they still eventually make those bombs and drop them on Japan. Still the only time we've actually used atomic bombs in a real World War factor. And then after those bombs are dropped, Oppenheimer spends the rest of his life essentially trying to make sure something like that never ever happens again. And that's why this movie is so topical today. You know, in the world we're dealing with today, people have said that AI is our new atomic bomb moment, our new nuclear war moment, that if we don't reel it in, that's going to eventually lead to the end of humanity. And that's exactly what Oppenheimer was worried about when he created the atomic bomb. And this movie is tackling his reasons for doing it, why he continued to do it, and how much it haunted him for the rest of his life. Cillian Murphy plays him perfectly in this movie. This is easily Cillian Murphy's best performance, and he has been working for a very long time. He's obviously worked with Christopher Nolan in the past. Batman Begins as the Scarecrow, but even before that he was in the 28 Days Later film, and then his real claim to fame lately has been his performance on Peaky Blinders. But this is his legacy. This is what he will leave behind, is his role in this movie. This is not only his best performance, but is one of the best performances on film, and should be nominated for an Academy Award, and right now should be the front runner for it, because he just falls into this role. You stop seeing Cillian Murphy. Cillian Murphy has those very distinct facial features. You look past all that, and now you're just seeing J. Robert Oppenheimer, and he deserves all the recognition for the various amounts of emotions he has to portray in this movie. And then this cast of characters is all filled with phenomenal Academy Award winning actors. I mean, I would say that the second lead in this movie is probably Robert Downey Jr. giving another great performance. I'll admit, though, it did take me a little while for me to get past seeing Robert Downey Jr. in this movie. His charm that he always brings to the table, you know, that charm from Iron Man, you can hear it, but he eventually settles into that role and you stop seeing Robert Downey Jr. Every other character in this movie is played by just big name actors. You get Florence Pugh in a small role doing a great job. Josh Peck pops up. Jack Quaid I thought was phenomenal in this movie. He doesn't even pop up to the third act, but his small performance is awesome in this movie as well. Kenneth Branagh's back doing an accent, and he only pops up in 2 scenes. Academy Award winner Rami Malek pops up towards the third act, again, only in 1 or 2 scenes, turning out a phenomenal performance in those 1 or 2 scenes. David Dastmalchian, who's basically discovered by Christopher Nolan when he first appeared in The Dark Knight, he pops up in this movie again, playing just one of those characters where you just can't read the guy. He seems a little bit off, and he's a big part of what happens to J. Robert Oppenheimer in this movie. So he has a very small role, and he doesn't phone it in at all. You get Casey Affleck playing a very chilling role. Actually, he was perfectly cast in his small role in this movie. Then I would say that Matt Damon has another pretty big expanded role in this film, and I think he's the only comic relief we get in this movie. That's only in a couple scenes as well, as that we get a little bit of comedy, ease the tension, because this is a very serious movie, something that has a deep message in it, something that's going to get under your skins. It's horrific. Like, people have been saying that this is a horror movie, and it is, because A, what actually happened, the amount of lives that were lost because of this, because this is a true story, and B, what could happen. So this movie has a lot of imagery showing you the pain, and the pain of Cillian Murphy's Oppenheimer, the pain that was caused by this, and the pain that could be caused if we don't reel this in. And all that is illustrated perfectly on the screen. You get amazing sound design in here, amazing editing. The editing is phenomenal. The score is perfect. Not done by Hans Zimmer this time. This time it was actually done by Ludwig Göransson. So they did a great job on the score here, really moving the action along, because this isn't an action-heavy movie. You know, we're really building up to what everybody was talking about, how Christopher Nolan set off a real nuclear bomb for this movie. He didn't want to use CGI. He really wanted to do it. He loves to do practical effects. And I think that's actually illustrated a little bit in the budget. The budget of this movie is only $100 million. And you wouldn't know that looking on the screen. This movie is one of the most beautiful looking films I've ever seen. You have to see it on an IMAX screen. If you're one of the people who's lucky enough to see it on one of the 19 screens that support that 70 millimeter IMAX film. It's the first film to actually use black and white IMAX, because there is certain sequences in this movie, because it's a Christopher Nolan movie, so that means it's told non-linearly. We get a couple different timelines, one that's in black and white, one that's in color, and then all of that's also taking place during this 1954 security clearance hearing that Oppenheimer was involved with, and I'm not going to spoil what happens there, but you can look this up. Everything in this movie you can look up, so really nothing is too much of a spoiler. The spoilers would be exploring the moments in his life, those small moments in his life with his wife, played by Emily Blunt, who I think actually was the weakest part of this movie, surprisingly. I feel like her character, she plays his wife, wasn't fleshed out enough. She really is one note for the most part until the third act, when she gets her big epic moment where she proves the kind of character that she is. But for a 3-hour movie, that one moment, I don't know, was enough to save her performance in this film. I still think she did a great job. I just don't think that she had enough to play with. And that's a problem just because this movie is such an epic and it's moving along so quick through moments in time that a lot of the smaller roles don't get to really have that big character development. And even though you might see a big name pop up like Josh Peck, he's not in the movie long enough for you to get attached to him. Really, Cillian Murphy is our through line through this entire film, and you're really just seeing who he interacts with. I would say only him, and then you get a little bit of Robert Downey Jr., who is probably the person who appears the second most on screen in this movie, and even him, you'll have big gaps in the movie where you don't spend any time with him. Cillian Murphy is our guy. That's who we're following around, and you do get emotionally attached to this movie. I've complained in the past that sometimes Christopher Nolan's characters feel very cold and empty, and they don't really have emotion, but that makes perfect sense for a character like Oppenheimer, why he would feel that way. And Cillian Murphy, again, I'm going to keep saying it, betrays that character to perfection. A 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 performance. Hopefully he gets nominated for an Academy Award because he deserves it for this movie. Easily the best performance of the year. He blends into that role. You just stop seeing Cillian Murphy. And again, such a topical movie. It's almost a flawless film. It flies by in 3 hours. It's a movie you have to see on the biggest screen you can. It's a very, very, very important movie. You might not be the most entertained, but you're going to be leaving that movie thinking. You're going to be thinking about humanity. You're going to be thinking about our future as human beings, what it is we do in this world, how are we being manipulated for that powers that be, for those higher powers. Are we just pawns in a system? Because people are going to always take things like the atomic bomb and they're going to try and manipulate that to their advantage. It's weird, actually, 2 weeks in a row seeing a movie like Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, and then seeing this the next week. Just seeing how these movies are tackling what is become one of our biggest subject matters, and artificial intelligence as that big thing, that our next big thing in humanity, the next thing that could wipe us out if we're not careful. And all that is illustrated on the screen in this movie. I really think you should see it. I think you'll enjoy it. Maybe not the most enjoyment you'll ever have at the movies, but I promise you're going to be leaving that movie thinking and at least appreciate all the technicals of this film, because it is one of the best films ever created. I have very, very little complaints about this movie. I cannot wait to see it again. If I was going to give this movie a score of 1 to 10, I'm going to give this movie a 10 out of 10. This movie is perfect. Go out of your way to see this, and I promise you, you will not be disappointed. But guys, it's also Friday. That means it's time for our digital code giveaway. And if you've never been here before, we do this every single week. In Friday's video, I'm going to ask you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. All you have to do is answer one of those questions in the comment section below. As long as you do that, you come back to Monday's video. We put your name on a magic wheel. We spin that wheel 2 times, and whoever the names it lands on, those are your 2 winners, and they have their choice of the digital codes that you see on your screen before you today. And as you guys might have noticed, the digital codes have been a little bit changed. There's some more now, and there's been a bunch that have been removed. Last week, a couple of the winners realized that Warner Brothers stopped honoring digital codes that have expired, which is very strange because I have bought Warner Brothers discs over the last year with expired digital codes, and I didn't even realize that. So unfortunately, I was giving out expired digital codes, and other companies like Universal or Paramount, usually even if their codes expire, they will still unlock them. But this is just in line with what Warner Brothers has been doing as far as their cost-cutting measures, their anti-consumer measures. So that doesn't surprise me at all. So I removed all the expired codes. I added in all the codes that I have that I hadn't actually put into cards that you guys have seen. So now every digital code that I have available for you guys is on those cards. So it's pretty accurate now, I'm pretty sure. Hopefully nothing slips in there that's expired or doesn't work. But enough about that. Let's talk about what this week's questions are. I asked you guys about Christopher Nolan last week. So this week I figured I'd ask you guys, what is your favorite historical epic film? That could be, films like Apocalypse Now, I would say, is an historical epic. Lawrence of Arabia, Bridge on the River Kwai, movies like that. But even if you don't want to go that route, you just want to go into the epic film route, like movies like Gladiator, feel free. But I figured, not everyone's a fan of those films. And you know who appears in this movie? And I've never asked you guys what your favorite film from him is. And that's Robert Downey Jr. So what is your favorite Robert Downey Jr. movie? Make sure you leave the answer to one of those questions in the comment section below. And don't forget to come back to Monday's video to check to see if you won. But anyway, guys, thank you for being here with me on another episode of Let's Talk. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you guys have seen Oppenheimer, feel free to comment your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let's talk about it. And then while you guys are down there, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and after you're done doing all of that, I want you to go out there and tell your friends about us. We'll be seeing you around.